We are an energy powerhouse. We have to utilize every tool we have in the toolbox and make sure he feels the pain. We can't back down. We need a full Team Canada approach. Everything is on the table, but Ontario can't do it alone. We need the support. We need a plan from the Prime Minister to come in, and if these talks fail in 29 days, we need to hit them back as hard as we can. I'm tired of the bully trying to take our lunch money all the time. We always seem to be on our back heels. We need to be on the offense, not constantly on the defense with President Trump. We need to stand up to the bully, and we need to hit him tariff to tariff, all the way across the board. And that's my message to the Prime Minister. We need a plan moving forward.
Canada is showing the world it has a powerful advantage that America cannot easily replace. Every new move makes Canada's position stronger while putting more pressure on the United States. If this battle keeps getting bigger, America could soon face a problem that is much harder to escape than anyone imagined. Canada supplies roughly 85% of all the electricity the United States imports, and about 60% of its crude oil. Ontario Premier Doug Ford stood before reporters and said Canada could dismantle the US if the provinces work together. British Columbia's Premier refused to put a single American bottle back on liquor store shelves. And Prime Minister Mark Carney is preparing retaliatory measures if trade talks fail. Canada has not flipped the switch yet, but it has made unmistakably clear that the switch exists and that its hand is on it. The energy leverage Ford described is grounded in a supply relationship the United States cannot quickly replace. Canada and the US share one of the most integrated energy systems in the world. Canadian electricity flows through an interconnected grid into New York, New England, the Midwest, and the Pacific Northwest, powering millions of American homes and businesses. Canadian crude fills the refineries of the Midwest and Gulf Coast that were physically built to process it. Ford's argument at the Council of the Federation was that this dependency gives Canada a tool most Americans do not realize exists: the ability to raise costs or restrict flows on the exact resources American consumers rely on daily. We are an energy powerhouse, and we could dismantle the US if we wanted to, if we all work together, Ford said ahead of the meeting between Carney and the premiers. He named electricity, potash, and oil specifically, while stating clearly that he was not speaking for the other provinces. That distinction matters. Ontario controls Ontario's electricity exports. Alberta controls its oil. Saskatchewan controls its potash. Any coordinated national energy response would require multiple provincial governments and Ottawa to act together, which is precisely why Ford raised it at a gathering of all the premiers rather than announcing it as Ontario. Policy. The leverage is not theoretical. Ford demonstrated it in March 2025 when Ontario imposed a 25% surcharge on electricity exported to Minnesota, New York, and Michigan, affecting roughly 1.5 million American customers. That surcharge lasted less than 24 hours before it was suspended following direct talks with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick after Trump threatened to double steel and aluminum tariffs in response. White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro later confirmed the steel and aluminum escalation would not proceed once Ford paused the surcharge. The mechanism produced immediate senior-level American engagement within a single business day. It was suspended, not eliminated. Ford has stated it can return instantly if Washington escalates again. And if you want the real story behind how Canada is still holding its ground through tariffs, wars, and hard times, hit join below to join the membership for exclusive documentaries you won't see anywhere else about Canada's progress and rise through uncertainty. The oil dimension carries even larger weight. Nearly a quarter of the oil the United States consumes every day comes from Canada. About 60% of American crude oil imports are Canadian, and the refineries in the American Midwest are specifically configured to process Alberta's heavy crude. They cannot switch to lighter domestic shale without major capital investment and downtime. Ford has previously called on Alberta to consider an oil export tax, arguing that if American gas prices rose by even $1 per gallon, The political reaction in the United States would be immediate and severe. Alberta has not imposed such a tax, but the option remains part of the leverage Canadian leaders are openly discussing. The standoff extends well beyond energy. British Columbia has taken one of the toughest provincial stances on American products. Premier David Eby refused to return U.S. alcohol to government liquor store shelves, using language that left no ambiguity about BC's position. Eby said there was not a chance in hell that American alcohol would go back on the shelves while the trade dispute continued. He stressed that Canada would not be pressured by tariff threats and that the province was actively strengthening trade relationships with partners outside the United States. BC's position aligns with Ontario's refusal to lift its own alcohol ban and Quebec's decision to keep American wine off its shelves until American tariffs are removed. Eby's broader message reflected the strategic thinking behind Canada's response. Rather than simply absorbing American pressure, provinces are simultaneously restricting American products and building alternative trade relationships. That two-track approach, apply pressure through boycotts and leverage while diversifying away from the American market, is the same strategy Carney's federal government has pursued through more than 20 new trade and security agreements over the past year, including the recently concluded deals with the United Arab Emirates and Ecuador. At the same time, both governments continue negotiating to avoid a full-scale trade war. Carney and Trump agreed to intensify trade talks in hopes of reaching an agreement before additional tariffs take effect. The 50% tariffs Trump signed on July 20th are scheduled to take effect August 19th, giving both sides a defined window to reach a comprehensive deal. Carney has consistently stated that a negotiated outcome remains the preferred result, while maintaining that Canada will do whatever it takes to defend its workers and businesses if talks collapse. His phrase describing Canada's response options, "everything is on the table," captures the deliberately undefined posture Ottawa has maintained. The reason Canada has not actually cut off energy exports is itself strategic. An outright shutdown would carry severe consequences for Canada as well as the United States. The energy relationship is deeply interdependent. Canadian provinces at times import American electricity during peak demand periods, and long-term supply contracts carry major legal and financial liabilities if interrupted. Quebec, which holds electricity export contracts worth billions, with New York and New England, has been notably cautious about weaponizing energy for exactly this reason. The threat of energy leverage retains its value precisely because it has not been used deploying it, would convert a reliable revenue stream and diplomatic asset into a mutual damage scenario. That calculation is what makes the current standoff so pointed. Canada holds genuine leverage over American energy supply. Its leaders are openly discussing that leverage. Ford has demonstrated the electricity mechanism works and produces immediate results. BC has shown it will not back down on product restrictions. Carney has prepared retaliatory tariffs, and yet Canada continues to negotiate rather than escalate, keeping its hardest tools in reserve because reserving them is more powerful than spending them. The interconnected nature of the North American energy system means disruption flows both ways. Grid operators on both sides of the border have consistently warned that their markets were never designed to handle politically driven price shocks on electricity. Utilities cannot plan around sudden surcharges. Investors cannot price the risk of reversals. Consumers absorb the volatility. Ford himself has acknowledged that ordinary American families did not start this trade war, while making clear that Canada is prepared to make them feel its consequences if Washington forces the issue. The August 19th deadline now frames everything. Within that window, Canada is negotiating through Carney's federal track, maintaining pressure through provincial alcohol restrictions, and holding its energy leverage in visible reserve. The oil still flows south. The electricity still crosses the grid. But Canadian leaders have made certain that Washington understands exactly what would happen if it does not.